Hi, I'm Miles Protter, and this is part 2 of What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Years ago, I remember feeling very frustrated with myself, wondering how I could be a leader like my boss, Steve. This is back in investment banking in the 90s, and he was great at dealing with enormous challenges strategically. He could bring people together, empower them to solve problems, and get guys like me to do all the work. He made it look so easy. I wanted to be like him, but it was years until I learned how to lead that way. In my mentoring work with hundreds of people, I discovered 2 things that actually speed up this learning process. And number 1, I talked about in part 1 of this series, it's about dialing down the winning formula that got us to where we are now, because it's not the set of strengths and skills we're going to need at the next level of leadership. Number 2, I talk about today, it's about adopting the mindset of the leaders we admire, looking at the world through their perspective and aiming our development at that. Many years later, when I started working in the consulting industry, I was offered a leadership role. And I realized I needed to stop thinking like one of the lieutenants and to start thinking like the general. But how? And that's when I had the brainwave. Steve, he could be my role model. He didn't even know he was retired. Now, consultants spend their time focused on delivery, facilitating, managing clients, scheduling work. But what does the boss of a consulting firm think about? It would be a completely new set of problems, but what? So I asked myself, how would someone like Steve take on this job? Well, it was like putting on a completely new pair of glasses. And the first thing I saw was we needed new systems. Our business was growing so rapidly, we just couldn't manage it. And Steve was fantastic at that. And I just learned all this stuff by osmosis from him. And also I saw the need to encourage collaboration across different teams. And people needed to stop being so busy delivering all the time, and they needed to sell. So they'd have something to deliver in a few months' time. They needed not to ignore new recruits, but to train them. And I definitely needed to raise professional standards because people came in from all sorts of different backgrounds. Now, one of my biggest challenges was people were working so hard, they were delivering work on all these remote sites, and they're just getting exhausted. And, I only talked to my boss. He was way, way over in another part of the world. I only talked to him a couple of times a month. So I really had to get into his mindset, how would he solve that problem? And he was also called Steve. And I know that he invested a huge amount of time in building community amongst his staff. So I did the same. And we started just by having a weekly kind of glass of wine on a Friday. And then we started having these debriefing sessions. And then we started having these little acknowledgement sessions and learning sessions. And then we had these quarterly meetings and semi-annual meetings. And it really built this amazing culture of appreciation. And so, people were working hard and they were tired, but there was no one was getting burned out because they always felt appreciated. It was amazing. So really, the 2 things I learned, about how to move up to that next level is, first of all, to dial down the winning formula that's got us here, because it's not going to get us there. And then secondly, it's to start getting into the mindset of the leaders that we admire and start thinking like them. If you want to talk more about this and how you can do that kind of leadership development, get in touch. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.